in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So then we can track new flight, input the flight number, RFN. Okay. Sorry for the up and down scrolling. I'm just trying to get a view of kind of what is going on before and after the spot that I'm looking at now.
Yeah, no worries.
So
it's good to know.
So we split the RFN by each character, get items in range 1 to 2 from split text. Okay, then combine them. So basically grabbing the first two characters, these three actions here are grabbing the first two characters of this RFN value. This could be reduced down to just a match text action or a replace text action and using a regular expression. And what that could look like. I guess let me see if I can get I'm going to use my finger for this part because the mouse can be a little weird. Yeah, so if I match on the RFN, really what all I need to do is I can just do two period or decimal symbols here. And that would grab characters, but we want to start it at the beginning of the RFN. So we need to use a caret symbol. So this says at the beginning, grab the first two characters. And that would reduce those three actions down to just the one. But in any case, it looks like what they're trying to accomplish there is being done. Then getting items in range 3 to blank, which is basically just meaning infinity at this point. So it goes from item 3 until the end and then combines that. So it gets the actual number portion of the referral code. And then they put that together to be the first two characters, or usually the airline name is what that would be, followed by the number of the flight itself. And we set the variable FN, which I assume in this case is meaning flight number. And then asking for the date of the flight. Current date is being put into text action and then getting converted into a number. Interesting. There must be some code that the API needs to see the date in. This is letting me select it very easily here. Love shortcuts sometimes. There we go. Okay, so the format here is DD. So we're just getting the day or the date of the month format out of what the current date is, which this could all be reduced down to one action as well. Or maybe even no actions depending on where that number is used later on. Okay, it's used right here. Yes, we could actually just put the, let me see where this goes. This is probably, oh no, it's the other way around. So the date of the flight is this provided input. It's getting converted to a number. So they're taking date of the flight and subtracting the current date. So like this one, can actually remove it and sometimes the editor is not my friend. Yeah, it's not letting me scroll. 1 second. This is the case where the Bluetooth keyboard is
Yeah, I feel that.
more of a pain because it doesn't let me access this as well as I wanted to do. Device details, shortcut input. Yeah, so the current date item can be used here. So we'll just select variable and we can actually go up here to date. Normally the current date variable available just directly above the keyboard there, so I'm not sure why that wasn't there. One of the pains though is this date formatting. In iOS 17 we've had some issues with these. So I'll set this and it's probably not going to stick. Yeah. Yeah, you can see now that I was basically able to eliminate those two actions.
Interesting.
And
So there's no real right way to do it. It's just you can always kind of condense a set of actions into really just one action, right? A lot of the times.
yeah, or in
Text
some
action.
cases, you might not even need a separate action to get that piece of information. You might be able to just um, pull it from one that's already existing.
I see. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's some usefulness to it. It can save some time in terms of processing, but not always the case, of course.
Well, I think if you have a shortcut that's, 500 plus actions, it might be worth it to kind of go in and try to condense it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And that's one of the things in my shortcut, Instagram Media Saver, that I got pushed kind of hard by a couple of people to try and reduce the number of actions as much as I could. And that kind of got me into a habit of seeing how few actions I could use to do a certain task. Because it can be helpful to kind of cut things down, but in terms of showing somebody else how to do something, sometimes more actions is better in that case. Um, so yeah, we're code for the date here, taking the flight date number, subtracting the current date number, and performing an absolute function on it, checking if the date difference is greater than 3 days. And okay, so that site must only be tracking flights that are within the next 3 days. So we've got an alert here that'll show up if the flight is more than 3 days away or was more than 3 days in the past. And then if that's the case, it runs the shortcut again to basically take the user back to the main menu. Okay, FDY. Okay, so see here, this is where they're doing kind of a method like what I was showing. So they're setting the flight date year here to the provided input, which was the flight date that was asked in the ask for input action. And they've got the date format for the 4-digit year already set here. So they're kind of already doing some of that reduction in this section, but didn't use it in the above area. So same thing here for the flight date month. And I'm guessing flight date is the same. Yeah. Okay, so they're setting those variables up. And this is only for track new flight. One thing I like to do when I'm reviewing these, and I haven't done it yet in this one, but I like to collapse sections that I've already kind of reviewed. That way it's just more condensed and kind of out of the way because I already know that whatever's in there looks okay. Okay, so if we're tracking a previous flight, it looks at the last flight text file that we initiated before, tries to see if it doesn't have any value, and if that's the case, it says you haven't searched a flight yet. Try searching a flight instead, and then it stops the shortcut. That's interesting. In this case, I would probably add a run shortcut action here so that it would rerun the shortcut. And then after you're finished with the second iteration of the shortcut running, it would then stop the original here. That way it doesn't continue through with the rest of this menu. But in this case, the user basically would press OK on this, you haven't searched a flight yet, and then the shortcut would just end. So they would have to manually rerun the shortcut in order to search whatever flight they were going to be trying to track. Okay, so they're splitting last flight by spaces, getting the first item by split text. Interesting, okay. And this must be the referral number. So were they, oh yeah, see, here's another way of making that same notation that I was showing earlier to get the first two characters. So this one, they're checking from the start. They have a period here, and then they're saying from anywhere from 0 to 2 of those characters to match on it. And that's totally fine. I'm wondering why they didn't use that at the initial part of the shortcut. And then this next one is matching the referral number also, but it's trying to grab 0 to 3 characters from the end. So this dollar symbol is an indicator, or it's the, I guess, the meta character for the end of the string that you're matching on. So then we get the first item from the airline code, which I'm guessing is this one up here. We'll just check it. See, yep. Okay, so that's the airline code. We get the first item from the flight number. I guess I'm not really sure why they're using these two actions here instead of just grabbing the matches, because you're not going to get, at least you shouldn't be getting, more than a single match from these two match text actions here. So these two get item from list actions could probably be removed, and then the match text could go straight into this text action. Okay, so then we set flight number there, get last item from split text. What text is this? Oh, here, okay. That's kind of what I figured. So we're getting the last item from the last variable. And we'll go back. And then we split that again by a hyphen. Get item at index 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So then, yeah, the date is stored in there in a year, month, day format, separated by hyphens. So they're setting up the variables here again. And for random flight, all right, so here's where we get into an API call. Looks like the flight stats website has an API endpoint for getting a random flight that is coming up next, I assume, based on the way that this reads. Okay. So they get value for data, the API. So in the API response, everything looks like it's stored inside of a value or a key named data. and we get the first item from that dictionary value. So there's probably an array is what the response for data is. So they're getting the first item from that array, and then they're getting the value for underscore source dot flight number and underscore source dot carrier from that first array. And then they're using that information here to set up the fn variable again. And these two actions here could also be eliminated. There's a way to reference a dictionary's key value. Oh geez, yeah, see, I can't even press on select variable with my keyboard. So if I try to insert, for example, where did that even go? I hate how shortcuts just scrolls to a random place. Okay, so it's from this item list. And so it's this item from list is a dictionary or JSON format. If I set this to dictionary, then I need to know what the name is here. So this underscore source dot flight number we can get here. And I'll paste it in there. So now this is going to get this key's value from the dictionary that we specified. And similar to the date action, it doesn't always like to stick. Can't really see if Martin is still on, but I know Martin's had his fair share of fun with the dictionary actions. But yeah, you can see here. Yeah, you can see here now this underscore source dot flight number shows up in the actual reference itself. So it's showing you that that's the keys value that it's going to get from that dictionary. Then we set the date again, and then the menu ends. Okay, so here is where they build the next URL. And this is to make the API call. So they're saying, all right, flight stats, B2, flight tracker. So they input the flight name and then the date. So they've got the year, month, day, the API call. Actually, I don't even think this is an API call here. This is just the website itself, because then they're scraping the data from the website, this make HTML. They're not getting a JSON response from an API in this case. They're just scraping the data. And they have the HTML put into this text action, which isn't really necessary. They could just reference the make HTML action directly, like in this quick look action, and also in this if statement. So they're checking to see if it says cannot get. An error occurred while searching your flight. Probably doesn't exist, and then it reruns the shortcut. And they don't have anything in the otherwise section of this if statement. It doesn't really hurt anything to leave them this way, but I tend to prefer removing unnecessary actions, like I mentioned earlier, so I can go ahead and delete that otherwise. A lot of people don't even realize that that's there, but it can be helpful just to get extra clutter out of the way to remove those.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will leave those in by accident too.
Yeah, I'm going to step in here a little bit. Maybe we can run the shortcut. And the thing is, we're just already kind of over on time here, and we're still on the first shortcut. So I'm not trying to skip over his IC cuts work, but we kind of need to get going to the next one. At least this is just a massive shortcut. What I'm thinking would be cool next time for another event is like a kind of bring in you and another developer and just make a workshop and see how we can improve their work. See if they're
Okay.
open to that. That would be pretty cool. Because yeah,
Yeah.
you have a lot of awesome notes on how to condense a lot of these actions and group them together and how to just make it more efficient. That could be very cool. But
Yeah. Let
let's
me just try and run it. I'm just
yeah,
trying to understand. So what I like to do is, regardless of the shortcut action count, I always like to scan through. Not this detailed, of course, because I'm explaining it for people watching. But I'll scan through and I generally check for anything like deletion files or any API calls or get contents of URL actions, mainly because I want to make sure that my data or whoever's data I'm looking at the shortcut for isn't getting sent anywhere. Same thing, like a send message action or send email action.
I think
Um,
that's a good check to have for any shortcut really. Is do a quick scan of, like you said, the most important things are deletion files or messaging, things like that. So yeah, can you go over that one more time? What are the main things you look for when you first download a shortcut and you review the actions? Like what are some red
so
flags?
yeah, usually like deletion of files, unless it's a file that the shortcut is creating. But generally I just look for a deletion of really any files. Um, and then if I see one, maybe it's okay. I'll look at it and kind of understand what it's trying to delete, of course. And then API calls to anywhere that maybe doesn't line up with what the shortcut is doing as an overall goal. Like in this case, I see this one here, API flash. Um, doesn't really relate to flight cuts, or I guess the website that the shortcut is using as its information point. But it looks like what it's doing is getting an image from a URL. And here it's where it's looking for that API flash key we saw at the beginning. So I'm not 100% sure what this is doing. Doesn't look like it's doing anything with my personal data, so I'm not overly concerned about it. But yeah, that's one of the main things. And then yeah, send email, send message. Those are really the big ones because the major concern with shortcuts isn't necessarily like deleting apps or um, things that people might usually think of on a computer, like a virus doing. It's more so obvious things like deleting photos or deleting your files or sending your personal data to some unknown source via a message or an email
Yeah,
or some sort of a network call. Um, so
interesting.
in
Yeah,
this
so
case,
it definitely can't. Shortcuts can't change system files. I see. Makes sense.
it, it's like we're nearing the end of this one. Yeah, so this all looks like it's okay. I don't see any collection of data or anything like that. In order to see your flight on a map, Flight Cuts relies on an external service to get a picture of the map. Please create an account at the following page, verify your email, get your API key. Okay. So yeah, that's where that API flash key that was referenced at the beginning is coming from.
I see.
So I'm at the end now. I'm going to try and run it and see what happens. Okay. Flight Cuts is going to display notification. Here's that menu, the V cards.
Sweet.
And
yeah, click track flight. I can try to pull up a flight number if we can test it. Let's see.
sure. Yeah. I mean, so if I hit track previous flight, it's going to tell me I haven't reached a flight yet, and then it's going to end. I heard that because I reviewed the actions.
Yeah, I see.
So track flight, we can do a random flight, or do you have a number?
Let's do a random flight, yeah.
All right, so
That's
it's
cool.
going to
like
pull a random flight from its API. Now these privacy permissions are quite annoying. It's nothing to do with this shortcut. It's just shortcuts in general.
Yeah.
They've gotten better, at least a little bit anyways, but they can be a little bit intrusive. Okay, so Air Europa departed on time. Yeah, so it pulls up some information. Looks like this one's traveling from MAD to CUN. Scheduled time, actual time. Yeah, looks pretty good. So if I hit OK, oh, okay, so that must have been the departure information, and now here's the arrival information. Gives the plane info. And if I hit yes on this, see a flight on a map, it's probably going to error because I don't have the API key. So I'm just going to hit no. If you'd like to share this flight with a friend, say yes if your friend doesn't have this shortcut. What? Would you like to share this flight with a friend? Oh, I see. So if I hit yes, it's probably going to share. What is your name? This is the name your friend would see when they run the shortcut. Okay, so let's send a link then at that point. I'm just going to go ahead and hit no. Okay, so now it's going to make an API call to Mike Beasley's update API and check if there's any updates available. It doesn't look like there is because we just downloaded this one, so that's good. Their version number set here is the same as the one on RoutineHub, so that's good.
Nice. Okay, cool. Thanks for going over that one. Let's check out the next one. It's going to be in the voice text channel. This is going to be Pocket Money Pro from D3W10. Because I'm curious why they haven't updated it, right? Curious what it would take for them to update it. Yeah, true. Yeah, that's awesome. So do you think you mentioned that this type of app doesn't really need updating too much, but at what point, like, what will Apple maybe release an update that'll break it and you'll be forced to update it? Like, at what point do you think this kind of shortcut would need an update, like a crucial like update to just work on a new iOS? Nice. You surprised it didn't break on the new iOS? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's tough.
Media. What this menu style here
Yeah.
at the bottom was from was we had problems with using the V card style menus with the images here. They eventually fixed it, but we still had problems with the way that the image displayed
Yeah,
if
that
it
does
didn't
look
have a
really nice.
background color. Um, but yeah, overall, I think I trust their work. I've been through the short few times. We can try to run it if you want.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
overall,
give
I
it a
think
run.
that a shortcut like this is pretty useful. And having reviewed back through it a bit now, um, I just saw somebody ask a question about a shortcut like this. Actually, I don't remember where it was, if it was in Discord or on Reddit somewhere, but this one would probably suit their purpose pretty well. Pocket Money Pro. All right, welcome to Pocket Money Pro. Yeah, so there's Swing Updater, E for the embedded updater. Yeah, so this is one of the nice things that I like to see inside of shortcuts sometimes, depending on what it's doing. You know, a larger one like this, it makes it nice to kind of get a little bit of a splash screen or a welcome message to
Yeah, I
see.
love this. I think every shortcut should have something like this when it opens up,
Yeah, it's
for
really
sure.
helpful upon first launch to really get an understanding kind of what you're about to dive into, because otherwise you're just basically at the mercy of a menu that can only give you so much information.
Now, how
But
how
some
di-
more,
how difficult is it to set this kind of page up?
well, let's take a look. It's not too bad. This one looks like it's formatted with some HTML. You can also do it just with plain text or markdown.
I love
But
the
the
additions. I love the additions of like the emoji and the different fonts and the color text.
oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna see if I can just end this shortcut. Of course, it's not gonna quit out like it should. Entry symbol before overview panel to show. Sure. Open. Good. All right, so yeah, it just ran us through some first-time setup questions, which can be helpful. It's a little bit different method than using import questions because it's storing those answers that I just provided into a file, likely in iCloud Drive, and then those get referenced to kind of how the shortcut will run on the next runs. So it's saying setup is complete. It's probably going to show me, oh, okay, we're not to the main menu just yet. Click OK. I have a weird looking K. Weird. Okay, I'll just name this my pocket. Current balance, we'll just put $10. Okay, you can add more pockets settings. Okay, now here comes a main menu, maybe. Notification. I didn't get the notification because I'm in Do Not Disturb right now, so that I'm getting with notifications on the screen share.
Fine. But you got it, no worries. Yeah, I love these menus.
Yeah, these are fantastic. That's another thing, with, I think it was iOS 14, and it might have happened also in 15 during some of the early stages. Things like this would have been broken because we couldn't properly show HTML to rich text very well in some of the different shortcut actions, especially with show web page, which just recently started working properly again. All right, so here's the main menu. Got the same.
I love this menu. I can't stop saying that. It's really nice.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty awesome menu, and the nice part is that the shortcut's also optimized for light and dark mode.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Which shows up in the document as well. RoutineHub, which is fantastic. I love it when people include basically all the details about the shortcut on RoutineHub because it just gives a more clear picture as to what you can expect and any issues that come up, ways to fix it.
Yeah, that totally transparency and letting everyone know like exactly what you're getting with the shortcut, I think is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like this menu style, again, as we saw in Flight Cuts, this is using the vCard format. So these kind of subtitles here are shown as just kind of additional information. And we can take a look at a couple things here. So the shortcut just ended. We'll open it up and we can see, so they've got this is what I was talking about when we were looking at Flight Cuts. So they've got all their icons, base 64 code, inside of a dictionary, and then they just reference these whenever they need to use the various icon that they need. So it just makes things a little bit cleaner.
Interesting. So instead of calling each icon individually, you can have them all in a dictionary and have them all ready to fire, basically.
Yes.
You call them from
absolutely.
within the dictionary. Very cool.
So then here, this is where that initial page came up. So it checks if the configuration file or the settings file exists. And if not, then it's going to show this HTML page. So it sets up the title. There's a name reference here. So if we look at this, so this is referencing the settings variable, and it's set up to dictionary, and it's grabbing the item name. So if we go and look at that, yeah, so settings is set up there as this dictionary, and then the name, I do that a lot in my own because it makes it nice for any references that you have for storing files in iCloud Drive or any menus you need to show the shortcut name in, and you're not having to change it everywhere. But so this shows the name, so the Pocket Money Pro comes up as the title of that HTML page. And let's see, show more. Some CSS code here for setting up different margins. Yeah, so here's where they're checking to see if they're in mode. So this @media prefers color scheme dark, sets up the background color and the text color if the device is in dark mode or not. Yeah, and then you can see the emoji here is set up, and all the other text is in this HTML code here to show in that initial splash screen that we saw. Rich text. So yeah, then they show that in a quick look. So that may be something that they did as an update, because it was updated in 2021. So I guess depending on what time of the year that was, it would have been an iOS 14 or 15 release. So they probably had to come in and update these actions here to be quick looks. I'm not sure. I'd have to look back at the previous version to see. Yeah, overall, this is a pretty awesome shortcut. I don't see, just looking at these beginning actions, a whole lot of areas that it could be improved in, and based on who the developer is, I'm not that surprised. Been around for a while developing shortcuts, so I kind of know the ins and outs. One thing that I've done in some of my stuff is like a list like this when setting up menus. If I'm using a yes, no type of question in the shortcut in multiple places, I'll put this list somewhere at the higher section of the shortcut so that I can just continue referencing that same list, so I don't have to make multiple yes, no lists. But yeah, overall, this looks pretty awesome. I know when it came out, I had loaded it into my library and used it a few times, but I didn't really ever start using it on a daily basis. But yeah, overall, pretty awesome shortcut.
Nice. Okay, solid. I asked if the developers in the chat, I don't know if you'd like to hop in and say a word. I probably not, but we can hop into the next one here. Yeah, D3W10, man, I love your menu setup. I love what you do with this shortcut. I'd love to have you in next time maybe and have you tell us about how you did all this really and what the next update might look like. But yeah, no worries. We can always set that up later and talk about it. He just said he can't talk right now. He's kind of busy. No worries. We'll figure it out. So let's hop into the next one. Let me get it up here. One second.
Yeah, I know when I was looking at this, when I was getting ready, I loved the note here. Manage your money like never before. No apps, no fees, just you and your richness.
Nice. There you go. So I'll do it. So here's the next one. It's called Clark's Dev Tools. I don't know if are you familiar with this one?
Um, a little bit, yeah. It's
So this one is the most technical one that we had submitted to us. I don't really know what this does, so I'm curious if you can tell us about kind of how deep this gets into the nitty gritty of development and shortcuts and stuff like that. So yeah, tell
for
us about
sure.
this one.
So like there's an in status checker to basically check if the user's device is online or not. Um, have to take a look inside the shortcut once we get into it to see kind of what that is even doing, but probably checking for an IP address or maybe running a small snippet of JavaScript to see if the device is actually connected to the internet or not. And again, documentation is key, in my opinion, for people to utilize your shortcut. And this is another one that has good documentation, which I love. So there's a Bluetooth checker, current date. Um, oh, I see. So it's just basically to get a consistent date formatting back from the shortcut. Interesting. Um, get clipboard. These types of shortcuts actually used to be quite popular. There were a few of them called like utility shortcuts. Um, I can't remember the actual name, but developer with the name of Chris was around for quite a while and has not been around for also a while. But he had one that was called like Ultimate Utilities or something like that, and it just had a ton of different utilities that can be used. And this is kind of down that same path of being more of a utility shortcut than like a standalone, which is pretty awesome because you can use it for various different things. So it looks like here now we're into an update check. So they've got a updater basically built into this shortcut that you can pass the RoutineHub information into the shortcut, have it check for updates, and then it will provide feedback. So it operates like a pretty standard updater, which is nice. If people are wanting to utilize current location, then URL. Interesting. Save a file. Rename a file. Looks like there's an issue with one of the image links here in their documentation. Yeah, they just published an update for this not that long ago. So yeah, I guess let's take a look at what's inside.
Clark's Dev Tools. I wonder if Clark's here. Let's see. It's probably not his name, but let's see. I'm
Nope, looks
curious.
like his name is Nathan Carmiel.
Let's see how many shortcuts he has on our site here. Oh yeah, he's always chatting in our in our Discord. He makes a few.
Yeah.
Makes the RoutineHub app, Clark's Web, Clark's Dev Tools, Clark Updater. Very cool.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So, and I didn't see it mentioned in the documentation, but it might be there somewhere that I just didn't pick up on initially. But
Oh yeah, you need to have
looks
Clark
like
Updater.
it requires this Clark Updater. So if I try to run this, it's just gonna quit out probably right away. Yeah, so it must have given me a notification here. Let's see. Files has any value otherwise. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so, and this is probably intentional, but from that initial run, we should have seen a notification or something giving us this error message. But I think because of the way that this shortcut is intended to be executed, there is this stop and output action is basically going to, from a run shortcut action, kind of like this one here, the output of that from running Clark's Dev Tools would give you this text in this situation because the updater, Clark Updater, is not included or it's not in the library yet. So that would come out as an output run shortcut action. But I wonder if they could have a way of displaying a notification in that case, because it's so confusing, I guess, right now because I'm running it standalone instead of running it from another shortcut. But I didn't really get any feedback until I scrolled down and saw this. But overall, this one's another big one, but it's not overly massive. But a lot of the features we saw in the documentation. So get value for URL and dictionary. If dictionary value doesn't have any value. Stop and output error. Otherwise, opens a URL.
Yeah, so this developer seems to use a lot of their work is mainly developer tools, right? Like this developer, there's an updater, there's like a web shortcut. So it's interesting. It's like a very specific kind of like developer-oriented shortcut.
Yeah, it's more of like a tool set or a utility than a standalone shortcut.
For the more technical, I guess, developers.
Yeah. Yeah, which can be nice because as somebody that is writing a shortcut, if I don't necessarily want to bloat my shortcut with a lot of extra steps.
Corrupted data has been detected. Please run a check for corrupt data. That literally just popped up. It was still downloading a second ago.
Is this from, are you running this shortcut now? Oh, I don't know if they meant to hop in the voice chat.
It's a lot of hassle just to get one game on there, huh?
Hey, are you with us here in the voice chat, or? I think he has a hot mic on. Let me, I'm gonna mute them.
How's work?
Yeah, I think he's on a hot mic.
Are you done with what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm gonna mute them. Okay.
Probably a good choice.
Yeah, so I just don't want them saying things they don't mean to be heard. Okay, so we'll hop on to the next one. It's there now. Oh, sorry. Let me press enter. There you go. It's on the voice text. This is from Francesco. He's actually
Hey guys, I just have one question about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Chris. Welcome.
Hey. So this video's been really great, and Ben, it's really a question about that utility belt example.
Yeah.
Have you found an easy way to maybe copy one of those methods or functions and maybe transfer it over to your own shortcut? Have you found like an easier way to do that, or do you just rewrite it if there's something that you like that another developer has made?
It really depends. If it's not a lot of actions, like the very small updater is, this one's not too bad to kind of recreate. But if there is, say, like 30 or maybe more actions, I mean, I'm just 30 as a number out there. But there is an easy way of doing that, and we could probably cover it in your session, but there's a shortcut from GlueByte called Join Shortcuts.
Yes, that's makes sense.
It used to be a lot easier. Join Shortcuts really made this process possible again for people that wanted to kind of put different shortcuts together more easily. Jellycuts is another method to do it, but of course Jellycuts is still in a developing stage with getting actions parsed and things from a shortcut link. But Join Shortcuts kind of takes the old approach that we had back in iOS 13 and 14 before shortcut signing became a thing. We could kind of take the shortcut, convert it into a text file or a plist file, and take the different action chunks from that shortcut and manipulate them, move them around to where we need to move them, or take actions from one shortcut and insert them into another, and then rename that plist file to a .short, get the iCloud link from it, and then install it. But with the shortcut signing that came in iOS 15, we really didn't have a way to do that because we had to sign the shortcut, and if you don't have a Mac to do that signing, you were kind of left out in the cold. But Join Shortcuts made it possible to do this right on your iOS device using a remote signing feature GlueByte put together. So it is possible. And like I said, we can probably cover it in a future session, but that's probably the best way of moving modules like what you were saying from a utility tool over into another shortcut, because it kind of automates the process instead of having to sit there and enter one shortcut, copy an action, go to the other one, paste it, and then deal with all of the reference issues of the actions not linking together.
Yeah, I think I want to say thank you. I agree with you that we can talk or go deeper in another video. What I appreciate is, at least for people who watch this video in the future, there is a couple of different approaches, and at least you've mentioned them very, very well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Very nice. So we're going to dive into this one. This is from Francesco. It's a very small updater. Yeah, this looks like a nice, nifty little updater if you want to tell us about it.
Yeah, you liked the welcome screen and some of the other items in the Pocket Money Pro, so I can tell that you're going to like this one as well.
Nice.
I'll zoom in on this one. So this screen that shows up in the documentation is what you see when an update is available when you're running this updater. This updater is very small, as its name implies. You really only need, it's only 4 actions, but technically 2 of those 4 actions are the if statement and the end if statement. So it's pretty small. You can see here in the back runs the API check. There's an if statement, a show web view, and an end if. And then it only displays this information when there's an update available.
Delete NBA 2K18.
It's not that. There's enough space now.
Oh.
It's something
So then looking at the shortcut itself, the documentation, shows how to install it. And in terms of the back end of what this shortcut does, I'll just add this quick so we can take a look at it. So as with most updaters, you get the RoutineHub ID, a version, and then it runs this API check to their API, which in turn runs the API check to the update kit API and then returns the result. So API basically, it's an update kit API, determines if there's an update available, and then returns the information if so. So for example, to run this, I'll try and put in my shortcut here. So my Instagram Media Saver shortcut just got updated to 1.66, and I'm just gonna run this quick so that we can see kind of what this looks like with mine. 6.4. And yeah, when I first saw this updater, like I do with most of the ones that I see when they get released, I usually ask the question of why. Like, sell me on your updater. And this one did. Most updaters, I kind of ask the question of like, well, why not just use the update kit API? It's super fast.
Mm-hmm.
If for whatever reason, it's gotten a lot better now. But the RoutineHub API had some really bad issues with latency not too long ago. I haven't seen those in a long time, but when that started happening, we had to kind of figure out a workaround because shortcuts that run the updater in the beginning would never be able to be executed because they would just hang on the API call for an extremely long time. And the update kit API makes it so that if that happens, the API tries for a certain amount of time, and if it doesn't succeed, it just sends you a note back saying, there's no response or the response is invalid, and then the shortcut can continue instead of the other case where shortcuts just basically pukes and says, I can't connect to this place, so I'm going to just end the shortcut. And so that's one of the great parts I love about this is that when I go to run this, you'll see it's going to check the version, so it connects there. And it usually doesn't take very long, but I'm not sure what's going on. Let me try it again. Okay, there we go. So it takes a second, and I don't know what's going on with my Shortcuts app, but it's not happy. There we go. So yeah, you can see it runs this page, says version 1.66 is available. It even uses the icon for the shortcut that it pulls. I think pulled directly from RoutineHub. Tells you the version 1.66 is available. You're currently running version 1.64. And you can either choose to update it or ignore it. And then it gives you kind of a snapshot down here of the release notes. And not all release notes have this information in them. These are just something that another shortcut that I use to release my shortcuts add into the release note. But yeah, I love this updater. I'll probably switch some of my shortcuts over to using it soon because I love the interface. The simplicity is great because a lot of times updaters end up eating a lot of space in a shortcut. I've had some shortcuts where my updater is quite literally longer than the actual actions of my shortcuts intentional, like the normal intent of the shortcut itself. And it's I don't want to say embarrassing, but it's sad the updating portion sometimes takes up so many actions, and that's the part that I love about this updater is it's, as you saw, it's just these 4 actions is really all that you need.
Very, very cool. Francesco, yeah, very, very cool work, man. Really appreciate you. He's in the text chat, but not in voice, so I know he's listening.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, yeah, Francesco. Thank you for submitting your work. This has been awesome. So I think we can have time for one more. I know we actually had a lot of submissions, so I do feel bad if there's any we don't get to, but I promise you guys there will be plenty more of these to come. So let's see. Yeah, next up we have Pro AI from Pro Creations. It's in the, yeah, there you go. Should be there. This one I've been wanting to look at this one. Let me open it up
So
here.
I haven't had a chance to dive into this one deeply yet, but I know that it uses the Chat GPT app and it does some pretty interesting stuff. Again, with the documentation here,
very, very solid documentation.
yeah, I love when the documentation has images and things to kind of show what's going on. Now, like I was mentioning earlier about the user ROP that made Media Kit, that's where these images come from, is Media Kit banners. And they kind of make a nice interface or a nice quick view of a shortcut to see the name and a brief title on it. So yeah, this kind of runs through the setup, and again, there's some framed screenshots here. These ones are nice. They've even got a little subtle shadow shown at the bottom as well. Killer documentation here. How to use, welcome to Pro AI, features. There's an actions menu on different things that you can do. I'll zoom in here. Tons of information about your device using Pro AI widgets. Donate money, upgrade to Ultra. Oh, I'm not sure if Procreations is in the chat or not, but the typo here. Maybe that's...
Yeah, they are in the chat. I think they're about to type something.
Yeah, maybe that's fixed in a version that was released after these screenshots were made. I'm not sure, but it can be difficult to kind of like go through and regenerate these framed screenshots after you update. So it's hard to say. Okay, so yeah, these pro widgets, looks like they're using a show alert action or show result action to kind of show some information here. This one has information about the device and the battery level, iOS version, location, weather conditions, current time, and next event. That's pretty cool. Looks like this one's using Pro Updater, and it also supports Omega's dev tools. which I love this information here too with these download buttons. It really makes things easy to see what the shortcut requires, or what it supports anyways.
Interesting. So those are that's like what you'll see when you open it, the shortcut, correct? It's like
Sorry, for which part? The auto update or?
Sorry, the icons you're talking about here, the animated ones.
Oh yeah. So they're basically just this one's of course an animated image, but yeah, like if I click on this or tap on it, it'll take
I
me
see. Very cool.
to that shortcut.
It takes you to that. So it's showing you what he's using to make his own work, and he's also kind of crediting them by linking to their shortcuts.
Exactly, and then it makes it
Very
that much
nice.
easier for the user as well, because they can see like, okay, well, this information is showing here that I need these shortcuts installed or that I can use them with it. So I can go check them out, or maybe I need to download it. It looks like in this case, Pro AI actually has Pro Updater E, so it's embedded, so you don't need to have a separate shortcut. They
I think
link to it here.
Yeah, those are really handy to have because it's a visual, like a visual flag. Like you might need these to run this shortcut, versus just some text saying that.
Yeah, like a hyperlink or something. It makes it much more
Yeah.
clear that, hey, you need this.
Very cool.
Okay, so voice chat. So yeah, you can run the shortcut with this. Basically, it looks like they're running a dictate text action here. And then it's going to send that information up to ChatGPT to process it. They've got a Pro AI API. Other shortcuts can take advantage of Pro AI's features. Oh, that's pretty interesting. That's kind of beyond shortcuts there, but there's an API for Pro AI set up. It's a lot of acronyms there, but pretty interesting. So you can basically just call the API to get some of these AI responses back. And then here you can see, oh, that didn't do what I wanted it to. So to get this animated banner or badge to show up, they've included the markdown code that's needed to show this Pro API, download Pro AI button. So it basically shows the GIF that's at this link, and it links then to this RoutineHub URL when you click it. And again, like you said, very handy to have images that show, and then the fact that they're even going another step further to show you the markdown code that you need to include that same thing on your own page.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
OpenAI API. So you can use this with the OpenAI API or with the ChatGPT app. So that's pretty handy because not everybody has a Pro AI or an OpenAI API key. I had one. My free credits ran out, and I never really signed up for a paid model yet. But it seems like the ChatGPT app kind of gives the access that most people need. So there's two options available. Image generation. Guessing this is probably utilizing the DALL-E 2 API from OpenAI, but maybe not because it says this doesn't require OpenAI API key.
Oh, cool. I wonder how
That's
that
pretty
works.
cool. Yeah, image generation from AI is pretty useful. I built some shortcuts using their DALI 2 API when it first got released. I don't even remember when that was, maybe last summer or something. Audio transcriptions, yeah, so there's a lot of information here. And I know Procreations has put some hard work into making this work and get updated. And then there's a little backstory here on kind of how Pro AI was born.
Yeah, love a little lore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is cool. I love this whole description page and the actions and the callbacks to the shortcuts used. Very cool.
Yeah, and these kind of like this section here, the compatibility can be very useful because sometimes a shortcut gets updated and there's new actions for a certain version of iOS, but it isn't necessarily compatible with those older iOS versions. So knowing the compatibility of that shortcut can be helpful for some users. And again, with the images, descriptive content to show kind of what's going on in the shortcut is really helpful, at least from what I've seen when users want to download a shortcut. I mean, it's like downloading an app, right? Most people aren't going to go to the App Store and download the app that has just a bunch of text in the explanation or the description of the app. They're looking at images to see kind of what that app looks like or what that app does when you run it. So it's very beneficial for most shortcuts to include either screenshots of the shortcut running or kind of a description showing the different menu items available. And the reason I say most is because there are some shortcuts out there that based on what they're doing, they don't really need to have a super descriptive or screenshots included. It's sometimes enough to just have the text. But in a case like this or any other really large shortcuts, it's really beneficial for the user that's going to download the shortcut to see what's going on. And this documentation really shows that well, I think.
Nice. There's even some Easter eggs here, little secret message.
Yeah, secret message base 64. I wonder what this is.
We'll leave that for the people to find on their own.
And
Yeah,
descriptive
so
release notes too. That's pretty good.
yeah, that's awesome. So it looks like they use pollinations. No, sorry, they use pollinations as well as Dolly if they provide the API key for the image generation.
Oh, okay. You're in the shortcut now?
I'm looking at the voice text. They're just kind of giving some additional info here. Procreations.
Oh, okay. Okay, good deal. Yeah, overall pretty awesome.
Solid. Let's see if we have. Let's do one more. It's gonna be a fun one, kind of a small one, just to kind of wrap things up here because we kind of dove into some pretty technical ones here. So let's see. second. Let's see.
No, the short calculator. 21 calculators in one, just requiring the Shortcuts app to use. Interesting. Complete calculator featuring basic functionality, inbuilt formulas, and other calculators, and a lot more. All right, so initial menus. Choose a calculator, simple, random number, round number, more calculators. Looks like there's some good good functionality in here. A few different formula-based calculations that can be done.
Wow, very cool.
Shortcut uses an update system based on auto-update shortcuts RoutineHub API by Avishek. Yeah, so this is kind of another case, or I guess a case of using a hyperlink where Pro AI's page had those badge images to kind of click on to see, where this one is still linked to, but there's just no image that it's tied to see this other updater. Interesting too, because I think Omega Bird is got their own updater as well. Okay, so here's a full list of different calculators. There is a lot. Random number, round number, calculate long equation, tip calculator, convert time zones. This is an interesting one to me because convert time zone action is, in my opinion, not that great, only because you can't really pass a time zone to it. You have to sit in the action, but maybe this does something a little differently than that standard action. You don't need any special apps, just Shortcuts app. You can just press get shortcut. Oh, there's even a beta version too. Requirements, feedback. Oh, they even have a Google feedback form. Yeah, again, I know I've said it probably a dozen times already, but I love good documentation, and this shortcut has got pretty good documentation as well.
Solid. Yeah, we love good documentation on RoutineHub.
Yeah, I mean, it really helps the site itself grow too, right? Because the better the documentation for a shortcut, the more chances are that somebody is going to download it.
Yeah, totally. It makes you know, the trust is there when the developer puts the effort to write out a whole description and they care about the steps and explaining things. And also when you have the images and all that, it just looks very nice on the page.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's not a dictionary reference. It's just a variable name that looks like it's got a typo in it, but that's not a big deal. So again, just scanning through here to kind of see actions we've got based on all the documentation. I don't think there's really any issue here. I can tell that this is that updater from the user Avishek because I actually had some conversation with them about it. I'm not saying it's the wrong do, but it's not something that I really recommend or would do myself. So in this update section, which is kind of this section that we're looking at now, it checks the IP address to see if the user's online, and that's fine. Then we're calling the RoutineHub API, checking the current version, doing some calculations with the version number to make sure that it matches up or is either greater than or less than the currently released version on RoutineHub. and, basic updater items here, seeing if there's an update or not, and letting the user choose to install it. Then, basically up here, check if the IP address has a value. And when we check the RoutineHub API here,
Yeah.
so if the result contains success, we go through and perform all those other actions we were just looking at. If the Hub API sends a response and it doesn't contain success, then it tries to run the update kit API with the same information, which the update kit API is then calling the RoutineHub API to see if there's an update. So it's kind of redundant, and it's not necessarily the fault of the shortcut calculator shortcut. It's just the way that this updater was developed. And personally, I would just go with the update kit API section and let it do its thing. Or even better yet, go with the very small updater that we looked at earlier, just because it's very small.
So it what it does is pings the RoutineHub API, and then if that fails or doesn't return correctly, it'll hit the update kit, and then that'll hit the API, the RoutineHub API again, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so and this is where I had some in-depth discussion with the updater developer on this, because typically when this API call fails, we don't get a result. It's not that it will say like result is failed or something. Generally, if it fails, it just hangs here or it's not able to be reached, and then the shortcut would just end.
I see. Yeah.
So on the other side, if you just use the update API, which I don't think I've ever seen be down actually, if the update kit API makes its call to RoutineHub and it doesn't get a response within that certain time frame, it just moves on and says, I can't check for updates. Sorry, we're going to continue running your shortcut, and then it would just carry on. Again, vCard menu here. This one has the base for the images built right into the text of the vCard itself instead of being referenced like we saw on the other shortcuts. I think I'm just going to go ahead and run this.
Yeah, let's try it out. It's a lot of action as well.
Looks like it's pretty safe. I mean, from a quick scan through. Yeah, so it just called the update kit API. So it must have had some strange response from the RoutineHub API. It's interesting. Generates a random number between minimum and maximum. So I'm going to put this number 199 for my minimum. Maximum will go with 100,099. Answer to your calculation. Random number 76,110. And you get some additional options here. You can copy it to clipboard, quick look, share the result, speak it, show advanced options, or do nothing. You want to run the shortcut calculator again. Interesting. Yeah, so there's some good information in here.
Very cool. I
Interesting.
like that it asks if you like to run it again once you finish an action.
Yeah, that can be nice. And there's two ways to do that, really. I mean, sometimes you can just run the shortcut again, and if they don't want to continue, they can hit exit. Or if they continue, they can go through with what they want to do. But yeah, let me see this convert time zone here. It's like the date. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we're just selecting the two time zones. Yeah. Convert time zone 53 CST to a different time zone is November 22, 9:23 GMT plus 10:30. Yeah. So that's using the calculate time zone difference action there. Yeah, this looks like a pretty useful one. I haven't taken a look at this one yet, or maybe I didn't even see it get released, but it's pretty nifty.
Yeah, huge shout out to Omega Bird 113. Really nice shortcut, man. Yeah, I love the descriptions and all the actions you explain, and I really love when a shortcut tells you if you'd like to run it again. It kind of, it's a visual cue that you finished the action, the specific action you called for, and if you need to run it again, you kind of it prompts you to do so. I love those features like that. For our last shortcut, we have a special one. It looks like this is the user's first shortcut. The user is their name. The user. That's gonna. I'm submitting it right now. There you go. Shortcut number 7. Translator fun. So it should be pretty simple, but it is their first shortcut, so I wanted to kind of highlight it. And let's see what we think. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one.
Before we go forward, congrats on the first shortcut. Yay. Very cool. So yeah, we'll dive into it.
So this one, all you do, type a few words or have a text file on hand, and it'll translate a bunch of times so you get a obvious result. Yeah, this sounds interesting. And again, like this is one of those examples where you probably don't need a whole lot of documentation. In this case, there could probably be a little bit more documentation, but for something that's just kind of a fun thing, it might not be necessary to even have more. Not that many actions, so it runs a translate. In this case, the updater is a menu option instead of a built-in. So yeah, it looks like it runs through a bunch of different translations. Okay, so some wait actions in here, translate file, speak result. Sorry, I'm kind of flying through this just to see if we can start running it right away. I'll translate what you want to type. Okay, so I'll just type in here.
Welcome to our first RoutineHub shortcut review session. Yeah.
We'll see what this thing comes out with. So it's translating that typed text into multiple different languages and then translating it from that language onto another one, And then I'm guessing it's going to
give you some crazy like
translate it back to English at the end. And yeah, it will probably make no sense.
That's awesome. I love that.
Let's see. I don't know if I listen to it, if it will come through or not. Let me see if I can just save it. Ugh, I hate it when it does this. Can't even select it.
Oh no, that sucks.
Let's just try again. I guess one bit of feedback for this one, nice to have an option to quick look the final result. But based on the fact that they released this one, so it looked like it was a year ago or so, might not have had that idea at that time. Yeah, maybe it will work this time. Save it. Nope. Man. All right, I'm going to try another option. I'll just share it instead.
JCL and sister-in-law is gonna come up those cabinets. She won't be here. She'll be here around 3:20. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I know it's a birthday, but can you
It's
help
fine.
her?
Yeah. Do you want me to call McKay?
This is no fault of the shortcut, but the share action kind of hangs sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to see one of these results.
So they're giving
They
some
send me a
notes
text
here.
message
It
of what?
says this is an issue with the latest Mac OS and iOS.
Oh,
Try
okay.
holding down the file
Sounds
you
good.
want to
I love you.
you want and click open file.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Of course.
Yeah, this.
But hey, it's okay. We're given really good notes here. The user said they're going to add a quick look action to be added. See the
Yeah.
shortcut, so that should make things much easier.
Okay.
But yeah, I say yeah, give us that update, and I'd love to try it out for myself and make up some funny. I just thought of a good name for the shortcut, Lost in Translation. You know, it's like
Yeah, that is a pretty good one.
Let's get lost in the. Yeah, I'd love to try it out once you add that quick action look. Very cool.
All right.
So yeah, wow. So it's been about an hour and a half now, 2 hours about. And I want to thank everyone for joining us here. Thank you to all the developers that submitted a shortcut, the user, Omega Bird, Francesco, whoever I'm missing here, D3W10, all of you guys. Thank you so much. IC we'll definitely be doing this again soon. I'm excited for the next round. Yes, this is very cool. And we'll go from there. Chris, thank you for hopping in earlier and giving a shout out. Yeah,
And big shout out to you
thanks
and
so much.
MBAN, I want to say thank you again for your really thoughtful and extensive reviews. I know that everyone who's been on this call has learned a lot, including myself, so I appreciate it. And I look forward to the next one.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. We're going to wrap this up, and I'll try to get the screen recording up for those that missed it, for the developers that wanted to hear their reviewed shortcuts. And thank you so much. Yeah, we'll end the call now. Thank you so much, guys. See ya.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Mike.
See ya. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Evan. See ya.